Trying to find your happiness this winter? Let Fiji Airways fly you there direct. Whether you're sunbathing or snorkeling, dining or dreaming, you'll experience legendary Fijian hospitality. Expect the warmest of welcomes in this Pacific paradise. Unplug, unwind, and relax in your happy place. Fiji. Get great deals on direct flights to happiness at FijiAirways.com. That's FijiAirways.com. You deserve this. Go from here to happiness. Flying direct with Fiji Airways.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
So what do you do when a 1,000-year flood inundates 90% of your city? How about when ice storms turn your city into something that resembles Superman's Fortress of Solitude? Or how about when a worldwide pandemic lands in your city and threatens both your city's businesses and the tax dollars that support them? If you're Denham Springs Mayor Gerard Landry, it's another day at the office, right? Throughout all of these events and under the leadership of Mayor Landry, the city of Denham Springs has not only survived, but thrived. And today we're going to learn all about Mayor Gerard Landry's career prior to becoming mayor. So with that, welcome, Mayor, to Local Leaders, the podcast.
Hello, glad to be here.
I am glad to be here. I'm excited. I've wanted you here a long time. You have just an amazing story. And the interesting thing about you is people may not be familiar with what you did before you were mayor of the city of Denham Springs. You do it so good, people think you've always done it.
Far from it.
So I start off my show the same way kind of every time. Just kind of tell everyone where you were born and a little about your family.
Born and raised in Baton Rouge. Downtown Baton Rouge on Convention Street is where I was raised, right next to Keen's Laundry.
Yes.
And my daddy worked for Keen's Laundry for 48 years. We lived 2 doors down. He walked to work every day.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah, back then Convention Street was a brick street.
Yes.
And it was up until just a few years ago.
Interesting.
So, went to Dufrock Elementary, went to Sacred Heart Elementary.
Yeah.
I had to go to Lehigh for 1 year because Baton Rouge High did not have a 9th grade at the time.
Okay.
I went back to Baton Rouge High and graduated from there.
Fantastic. And, I did my research, and I know you're going to find this interesting, but I said, man, Baton Rouge High has had some really good graduates over the years, some notable alumni. So I went through and I kind of researched that, and here's some interesting ones for you. Jay Darden was a Baton Rouge High graduate.
1 year behind me, and he is actually Marion and I's attorney of record.
Really?
Jay's a great guy.
Well, lieutenant governor, he was a secretary of state, a state senator. Mm-hmm. So Bobby Jindal, another one, congressman, then governor. Bob Pettit. How about that? We're going way back now.
That's a basketball legend, yes.
Basketball legend. And, of course, Jimmy Taylor. Everybody knows him. Mm-hmm. But some pretty notable alumni, including Gerard Landry, mayor of the city of Denham Springs. Two-term
That's a
mayor.
stretch. That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
We got to get that in the Wikipedia. I'm putting that in there myself.
All right, fine.
So you graduated from Baton Rouge High School, and then you served 6 years in the U.S. Army Reserve.
Yeah, I was able to. I was able to go to LSU for 1 year, and then draft happened. Yeah, and joined the reserve unit in Baton Rouge. It was the 4013th Garrison Unit. Yes, from 72 to 78.
Right at the tail end of Vietnam.
Right at the tail end of it. That's exactly right. And then got out and started started my career in the food business.
Yes.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the food business. And, of course, National Supermarkets is where you ended up from 1970 to 1994.
Right. It's amazing. 24 years, 1 month, and 8 days.
Yeah.
About.
Who's counting?
Yeah, exactly.
And in between that time, you married a young lady named Marion Miller.
I did. And we're soon to celebrate in February our 35th anniversary.
Congratulations. 35 years of putting up with you.
I know. There's a special place in heaven for her.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Miss Marion, such a sweet lady. And as they say, behind every strong man, there's a strong woman. And so shout out to Miss Marion.
She is my rock.
Yes, absolutely. 35 years. That is an accomplishment these days for sure. Well, we talked about National Supermarkets, and you eventually rose to the position of district manager for.
Sure did. I had 20 stores in 3 states, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, about 1,000 employees.
Wow.
And then we were sold. We were a Canadian-owned company, and we were sold. The St. Louis division and New Orleans division were sold. And I was offered a package to leave.
Yeah.
And they offered it to me 3 different times, and I kept saying, no, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go. But finally, the third time I said, maybe I need to take it and go.
Yeah.
So I did, and went to work for Associated Grocers.
Yes, AG.
AG in Baton Rouge, that's correct.
How was that?
That's a really good experience because I had the opportunity to see instead of all that 25 years in the chain store side, then I was able to go to the independent grocer side of the business and the wholesale side. Yeah. Because we're wholesale suppliers at Associated Grocers. And I had the luxury of being a counselor just for a short amount of time, and then they put me in what they call retail development, and that's where I was the only guy that got paid to go see retailers that were not our customers.
Yes.
And try to draw them in.
Yes.
And join the group. And we had over 200 operators at that time when I was there.
Absolutely.
And also to take our retailers that wanted to expand to buy other locations, I helped them to negotiate leases and do performers for them. Anything I could do to help facilitate the sale. Yeah. And that's exactly what we did.
Wow.
And ironically, I think you know Mr. and Mrs. Rod and Julie Olivier quite well. Happens to be your in-laws.
Yes.
So Rod and Judy had sold their store over on Highway 16, Rod's Grocery, and I was a part of the deal, if you will, trying to help them negotiate everything. And the deal fell through.
Yeah.
I called Rod up after talking to Marion first, right?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, babe? I said, this might be the opportunity because I've always wanted to have a store.
Right.
She said, sweetheart, whatever you want to do, I'm behind you. Called Rod back the next day. He said, I'm going to, I think they were taking the kids to Disney or something for Easter weekend. He said, I'll call you on Monday when I get back. And he said, well, you know what the deal is. Do you want to do it? And I said, yes, let's do it. Met him at the store, shook hands. And shook hands, right?
Try to do that these days.
Well, you got 2 old guys here, okay? Yeah. That's still old school.
Yeah.
And the handshake is very important, and it meant something.
Yes.
And we went through the whole process, getting funding through the banks and actually getting to the closing table. And Jeff LeBlanc was our closing attorney at the time. Mm-hmm. And he said, John, I got to have a purchase agreement. And I said, we don't have a purchase agreement. I said, and Rod doesn't want one or doesn't require one. He said, but the bank does. I said, well, I'll tell you what you do. When he walks in the room, you ask him. And he said, I don't need that. And he said, no, well, we need it. He said, he reluctantly signed up, but that's okay. He understood the value of a commitment and the value of a handshake.
Absolutely.
And so we still go forward with that same value.
Yes.
In our world, but. Yes, we do have to sign contracts, and I do quite often.
Yeah, and it's funny because he was a character, and in his mind, this is my word, and that should be enough.
That's exactly right. So we did that in 1997. We bought the first one.
Yeah.
About 2 or 3 years later, we bought a second one from Rod in Holden.
Yeah.
And we kept both of those stores for approximately 20 years.
Fit Blends of Denham Springs can help you with everything from meal prep to supplements. I love it that they serve breakfast all day in addition to the best ultra healthy wraps you can really get anywhere in Livingston Parish. They are home of the $5 Smoothie Friday and are an amazing sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Fit Blends Denham Springs, fast, fit food for you. Wow.
And then I just decided, I still hadn't made up my mind what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
So there was Jimmy Durbin had decided that he was going to retire.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion about that. And I told him, I said, Jimmy, you know what? I think I may run for mayor. And he said, well, let's go see what you want to do. So I went home, talked to Marianne, of course, and the kids, and we all talked about it, and so we said, okay, let's do it, because it does take a group of support for me,
absolutely,
to pull an election off. It's a lot of work, but you know what, we were successful, and that was 6 years ago now.
Yeah,
and we were able to pull off the second one.
Yeah,
and next year we'll do the third one, hopefully.
Yes,
we'll run for a third term.
Thank goodness. And were you surprised at the amount of work that it required? Just from a, I've worked in a few campaigns and watched some people that were running for some things, and wow, at the end of that thing, you're tired, right?
You are, because every afternoon I walked every single day. The only day I didn't do it was on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I tried not to disturb people at home. I tried to go like at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and maybe cut it off around 6 or 6:30, so I wouldn't interfere with too much with dinner plans.
Right.
And on Saturday, maybe from 10 to 3. And we had kind of a system worked out where we'd go and knock from door to door and pass out push cards and talk to the folks and try to solicit votes.
Sure.
I had a really good friend, Mr. Jim Brown, that he walked with me on so many days, and he was a big supporter.
Yeah.
And, of course, he knew everybody in town as well, okay?
Yeah.
And
that helps.
It does. It does help. So it was a lot of work and very emotional. It's like a roller coaster, because one day you're on top of the world, and the next day one person may have said something or questioned something and put it on Facebook. Yeah. And oh my God, here goes the kids, and they're all panicking. Marion might be getting excited about this, that. And I said, okay, it's going to be fine. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Yeah. Keep pushing forward. And it eventually did work out.
Yes, it did, and you won your first election, first time out.
First time out.
You're a businessman, and I think that was the perfect storm for what was to come. Is the fact that you had so much experience in business.
Well, not to mention just the business aspect of it, but in my business, guess what we also encountered? We encountered tornadoes, hurricanes, all the natural disasters that we had to work through as well. So I had some experience dealing with that, and was able to carry that forward. The other major portion of what we did was carry forward the customer service aspect of what we do in the grocery business.
Yes.
Customer service is what we do in this business.
That's right.
The citizens pay tax dollars to have services provided. Fire, police, gas, water, sewer, streets, cutting. I mean, just any number of things that we do, and it's all services that we provide. And as long as I try to instill in all of our employees. We have 169 employees, I think it is right now.
Yeah.
We are in the customer service business. These are our bosses. This is who we work for.
Yeah.
And so you return the phone calls every single day. You go visit them. You find out what their needs are. You do the best you can to satisfy them, and we'll accomplish it.
Absolutely.
And so far, we've had some pretty good feedback, and we're proud of what we've done.
Yes,
and we will continue.
Yes, and you took over a position at that time from a long-standing mayor who had been here a long time.
Mayor Durbin had been in office for 12 years as mayor, and before that, 13 years on the council. So he had 25 years of experience.
Yes.
And, one of the things I shared with Jimmy, and it's one of his concerns, was I don't want to see any of my employees that he had brought on board, trained, and groomed to be in the positions that they're in.
Sure.
He didn't want to see them lose their job.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Jimmy, I'm not a politician. Typical politicians, to me, would bring in their brother-in-law to be the chief assistant, their sister-in-law to work in finance, even though they may not be qualified. And that's kind of a stretch. But you see it happen.
You're right.
In my world, where I came from, I would transfer from store to store and as a manager or whatever. And when I walked in that front door, I had to have everybody that was there trained and that knew what they were doing. And if I didn't get along with them down the road, then we'd make adjustments and move them around or whatever we needed to do. And I assured Jimmy, nobody would lose their job when I walked in the door. It's about continuity, and then I would make changes as I saw fit.
Yes.
In my capacity as mayor.
Yes.
And so, other than natural attrition, we're doing fine.
Yeah. So, and you've got some great employees over there. You introduced me to several of them. And one thing I'll say about Mayor Landry is he credits his staff and the people that are around him and make things go every day for a lot of the success. And he shies away from me saying how great he is, but he really does do a phenomenal job. But it is the people behind those things, too, that matter.
They do it all. They do every single thing, every single day. And, I just sit back and kind of watch and maybe coach and groom a little bit. And I've learned quite a bit. There's so many aspects of the job that we do here that people just don't see behind the scenes. You think of fire and police, but there's so many more things that we have to be concerned about that we fight
absolutely
every day. But it is fun.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that is an eye opener if you don't realize what goes on behind those scenes and in the amount of work involved to just make a city like Denham Springs tick. Every day. So you're rocking. You win that first election, your first time out, tight race. In 2016, something happens. A little out of the ordinary, right?
We had a little rain event, yeah.
Little rain event. And when it was all over, 4,200 homes, of those 4,200, 90% got water, and around 3,000 got over 18 inches of water.
Yeah, it's about 77% or so.
Unbelievable. 25 to 30 inches of water in 72 hours in a river crest that was about 5 feet higher than ever in recorded history.
I know. Well, I had Jimmy Durbin in the old West City Hall after it flooded because he wanted to come out and see the amount of damage that was done.
Yes.
And there was a water line. It was 52 inches inside the building.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember, but in the foyer of Old City Hall, there was a straight line of all the pictures of all the old mayors. And it came right up to the bottom of the bottom row, so none of those pictures were destroyed because some of those things are very, very, very old.
Yes.
And I said, Jimmy, I beat you.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
What do you mean? I said, your flood when you were in office was right here, and mine was right there. Now, it wasn't a contest that I wanted to win, right. But I did.
You did.
We tend to be competitive, okay?
That's funny. Yeah, you did. You won.
I won that one, exactly. But it was obviously it's an event that will change Denham Springs forever.
And the people of it.
Forever. And it's, we still suffer from what I call as post-traumatic flood syndrome.
Yeah.
Every time it rains, we all start to panic. My phone goes off. I start getting pages. What about this ditch? And what about that ditch? And this poor lady right around the corner from where I lived, she has a beautifully landscaped yard, and she has a nice little drainage thing that somebody put like a little French drain. It's got marble chips on top. It's really nice. And she sends me a video, and I can hear her voice. She said, Mayor, I'm just so concerned because the water seems to be backing up. And literally, she has about an inch of water in her yard. And I just said, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, you're good.
It's going to be fine,
Yeah, it's almost like post-traumatic stress, isn't it?
It really is.
I can't imagine, and maybe you can take me through this, but, I remember the day, and I remember, I distinctly remember leaving the paint store, going through that back neighborhood that got hit so hard, and noticing water was higher than usual. I remember thinking, wow, it's almost over the tires. This is weird. Still, no real concern. And I think the problem for everybody was the speed in which it happened. It wasn't like we had 3 days of watching it rise an inch a day. I mean, this was from nothing to what it was in a short period of time. You being the mayor, at some point you see this happening. What was your thoughts. BJ Pawn and Gun in Denham Springs wants to buy your unwanted gold jewelry, gold coins, and gold bullion. With 30 years of experience operating in the Livingston Parish area, BJ Pawn wants to be your source when selling your gold. So stop by BJ Pawn today for a no-obligation offer. BJ Pawn, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast.
We had the day on the Friday before the event. We had an evening meeting at 7 o'clock. It's kind of like an emergency operations meeting where we all got together, make sure everybody had fuel in their trucks and flashlight. Yeah. I mean, just the normal process of reminding everybody that what's getting ready to happen. And we're going to meet again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. right here at the police department. We're going to see what we need to do and kind of assess what does the weather look like, what does the river stages look like. Now, we expected, because if you remember in March of that year, we also had a little minor flood where water came across River Road. Mm-hmm. And that would be the best case scenario, just to have that little bit.
Yes.
And that might have been what we were kind of expecting until 7 o'clock. I actually got there about 6:30, and Government Boulevard was already underwater.
Yeah,
and it was threatening to go into City Hall, which is across the street. I said, "Oh my goodness!" So I think it was Curtis, one of my street department guys. Curtis Myers had a front end loader. Yeah. He put me in the bucket and took me across the street, dropped me off at the front door, and by that time the water was about an inch from coming in the door. And I said, "Oh my goodness!" So I got inside, and I'm thinking, "What do I do?" Because you just don't know what to do. But the water's coming.
Yeah.
Man, I just started taking hard drives off the floor and putting them on top of desk and taking the bottom drawers out of the file cabinets and throwing it up on the top, thinking maybe we'll just have a couple of inches. And then the water started coming in the building, and I'm thinking, oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So I had called Ben Harris, one of my guys in the water department, kind of ironic water department. But anyway, he was close by, and he started helping me pick up all these things. And then I called Michelle Hood, who's a city treasurer. And I said, I know there's got to be something, because we had this big safe, and it was for records.
Sure.
I know there's something in there that I need to get. Tell me what it is. And so she gave me the combination to get in. We finally got it open. And she wanted the backups. She had backup tapes and hard drives for all the documentation.
Yeah.
Finally got that up. Her and her husband came up there to help us make sure we had everything that we needed. And by that time, the water now is probably 2.5 to 3 feet inside City Hall.
Wow.
And I'm saying, oh, man, we need to get out of here. So we went to the entrance closest to my office down the hall. And Ben and I tried as hard as we could to push open the door, and we couldn't because of the force of the water coming from the river. So we just turned around, made 180 degrees, went to the far end of the building that was facing the other way, and they sent a boat over to get us, and we were able to get that door open and escape.
Unbelievable.
And then the water just kept rising, and where we ended up was in the Walgreens parking lot.
Yep.
And we stayed there for 2 or 3 days because that was the only dry spot that we had. We really couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
Albertsons didn't flood. They were still open, still operating as best they could. Didn't lose any power. Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
We were able to feed all of our staff and have we set up a charge account and say, here's my credit card, water, food, whatever these guys and the girls need, make sure they get taken care of. And it was difficult. I can remember sitting with Dee Womack, okay? She is the current she's married to the chief of police, but she's also our evidence officer. And at the time, her and I were sitting on milk crates in the parking lot because that's all we had.
Sure.
We both had cell phones for a while because if you remember, AT&T went underwater, so I lost my cell phone. She still had Verizon service, if I recall. And I can remember she's sitting there talking to somebody, and she's screaming, I can't fax it to you because I don't have a darn fax machine. So you don't think about how when you lose everything in City Hall, you lose it all, and you can't just produce a fax machine. You can't just send an email. I mean, we were struggling.
Yeah.
But we made it, you know.
Yes.
We made it. And the most important thing was really trying to save lives because eventually the National Guard did show up. Eventually we were able to get our thoughts together and send everybody to the water's edge. Matter of fact, on Florida Street, fairly close to your store, just to get water, get people out of the boats, escort them up the hill, if you will, to Albertsons. And we had to separate them. I had to get on the microphone in the front of a police car, right? They have a mic thing. I said, okay, if you have any medical emergencies, if you're in a wheelchair or whatever, please get to the front of the line so that when the National Guard gets here, you can go first. I was getting phone calls. Can you find my mom and daddy if you can, please? Yeah. It was a madhouse.
Yes.
Just a madhouse.
Yes. And, you know, I can remember the most surreal moment for me was watching the Coast Guard literally
flying over,
plucking people off of off of roofs and taking them up, and off they go. And I said, oh my gosh, this is right by the Bass Pro Shop.
Right.
Exactly. You know where I live, that area of town, and I'm watching the Coast Guard, and these are amazing people. This guy would come down the zip line, and it was like he's done it 1,000,000 times, and come here and get in the basket, take you back up.
well, here's another good. The Cajun Navy showed up, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are just good old guys like, you and I sitting out there, and they come in their bass boats and their bateaus. And the young guy, the Bako family that owns the KOA.
Yes.
The youngest son comes up, and he said, Mayor, I'm hanging in here. He said, but I need gas. Yeah. I said, okay, we got gas because there was a convenience store right across from Walgreens, just east. You're not selling gas to anybody else. It's ours.
Yes.
And in time of emergency, I didn't realize I had that power, but I do. so we said, this is only for emergency use, right?
Yes.
So the guy from the Cajun Navy says, but I need some. I don't have any gas cans. I said, oh, my goodness. So I turned to one of my police officers, and I said, I know we got to have gas cans around here somewhere. He said, I'll get you one. Don't worry about it. He comes back in about, 5 or 10 minutes, and he's got 5 or 6 of them around. I said, where did you find all the gas cans? He said, they were floating right there on Centerville. Well, if it was in your garage, it floated out. So we found all kind of things that we needed.
Unbelievable.
So we took the gas cans in there, got them filled up, and the Cajun Navy was able to continue their work.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, it's just you have to be creative.
You have to be creative, and it was really a point in time where citizens, just normal people, stepped up and they did what they had to do to help their fellow citizens. And I always tell people that was the worst of times and the best of times, as they say.
Citizens we always reach out and help each other. Yes. I don't care what part of the country you live in. You're going to help your neighbors because it's the Christian thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Maybe the only thing we do a little differently down here is that, Cajuns love to cook.
Right.
So when the power goes out, the first thing they start thinking of, what can I make? Can I make a jambalaya? Make a gumbo? and I'm going to tell you what, we were in those little tents out there for a little while. We had a lot of good food brought out to us. Because people had to do something with the food that they had, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was a very emotional time when you weren't in the middle of, and you had a little quiet downtime for a few minutes, and I would tell you the emotions would take over, and it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
And then when you have to make the call, fire chief, I said, Chief Weed, I said, I need you to go out there. I don't want this to look like New Orleans after Katrina, but we have to do a search of every house.
Yes.
And what I meant by I don't want it to look like New Orleans. I don't want the big red X's and zeros.
Right.
Just go to the house.
Yeah.
And make a good informed decision. Do you need to break in and see?
Yeah.
Or if you see the attic stairwell's down and it's down and somebody's probably in the attic, bust in and get them.
Yes.
If the house looks normal, you probably don't have to go in.
100%.
And so we had to work through that process. I've never done that before. None of us have ever done that before. So how do you do it and how do you execute it?
Right.
How about this one? My wife calls me up. She said, baby, there's a coffin across the street at Denham Springs Elementary.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord is right. I said we had 19 coffins up out of the ground. They just popped up because of high flood water, right?
Yeah.
And I think 7 or 8 actually escaped the cemetery.
Wow.
One was by my house, and there was a couple in a ditch over there off of River Road.
Yeah.
Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? So, Mary got on the phone, and she called the State Funeral Directors Association, and she finally got down to a guy that gave her some advice and gave me his phone number. I called him later that evening, and he said, this is how you do it.
Awesome.
So we had to go collect the bodies, collect the coffins, and put them on a tarp, bring them back to the graveyard, cover them up with a tarp, and then we were able to get some help from R.B. Goins, who worked with, he's a part of the DMORT team. He actually done some work in New York City after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
He's retired Ravenhorse funeral director, lives here in town. Great guy.
Wow.
And he said, don't worry about it, I got this. And he did.
And you said, take it.
This
is all you. Awesome. William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance cares. He cares about his customers, their families, and the Livingston Parish community. Call William Waldrop today for all your insurance needs at 225-667-2040. TWFG Insurance and William Waldrop. Their policy is caring. And they're a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Hey, it's Jim Chapman reminding you that if you have not heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's really everything you need to make a podcast in only one place. It makes it easy, folks. So do me a favor, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Well, September 10th, 2016, you, along with several mayors, including the mayors of both Walker and Central, testified in front of Congress and made what is, in my opinion, one of the most profound and heartfelt speeches I've ever heard anyone say in a congressional hearing. And I've watched a bunch of them. I love watching that stuff. So I'm gonna include the video of your testimony at the end of this video, so people that maybe have never seen it can watch it. It is unbelievable. And I think it's important that people see that. There was something in there you said that really got to me. You said, our citizens love our community, and I love our citizens, and I try to be their voice. That's strong, right? That's passionate stuff. I can remember, Mayor, watching that on September 10th of 2016 and feeling as though you had my back. That mattered to me.
Yeah, it's hard to.
And it absolutely is. But, I tell you this, I've told you this before. If you had 10 mayors and you line them up, there's one really that could have probably handled that like you did. I thought your job was amazing. And as a citizen, as a guy that has businesses right here in the city of Denham Springs, I do want to thank you for that. You did an amazing job there. So we'll move on from that a little bit. 2018, you did something else that's kind of unprecedented. You won a second term after a disaster.
Yeah, Senator Cassidy called me the night of the election and said, boy, congratulations. He said, most mayors don't get reelected after a disaster.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's happy with the results and what you did.
Yeah.
He said, but you did it.
Yeah.
Well, we worked very hard.
Yes, you really did. We came back strong and Denham strong, as was our motto, and the hashtag and everything else. And in that race, not really close at all. 70-something% of the vote went to you, and deservedly so. But
it was 83%, but that,
yeah, but it was counting.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. So obviously the citizens had spoken. They were very happy with the job you did, especially after that horrible year of 2016. But you have work still left to do. So you ran again, won again, no problem. And we're ticking right along as a city. And then March of 2020 hits, and COVID rears its ugly head. Another thing that and you weren't alone in that. Nobody really, as far as in government, had ever dealt with anything of that magnitude.
Correct.
Interesting situation for you.
Yes. A lot of phone calls about what are we going to do, or do we have to wear masks, and do we have to get it? I mean, all the whole scenario of just the unknown.
Yes.
And they expected me to have the answer, and I did the best that I could.
Yes.
Thank goodness the governor had to make those calls.
Yeah.
Not I, right?
That's right.
Because it is a tough decision to make, and, and there's so much misinformation. And I know one of the things that the legislature tried to do was to take away some of the responsibilities that the governor had and give it to mayors to make the call on whether or not you have a mask mandate or you had to, all the different criteria that we had to follow.
Right.
And I was the first one to call Rogers Pope, and I called Buddy Mincy, and I called everybody else. I said, guys, you don't understand. Yeah. We can't do this. I don't have any access to any medical folks. I don't have any expertise in the medical field. I don't have enough information about what COVID's doing or what it's not doing.
Right.
The governor has all that access, all that information. He has direct contact with the White House. He needs to be the guy in charge, not the mayors, I can assure you.
Yeah.
And they said, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take a challenge any day of the week, but
Right.
I did not have the tools and still don't have those tools.
Yeah.
And don't want that job.
I think it was the right call. And he does. He has access to that and the best of that.
And whether you agree with it or not,
yeah,
he does have the information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, we follow protocols, do what we have to do, and we're still rocking right along. And one thing surprising about 2020 was, everybody's first thought was, well, there goes business. We had a pretty good year in the city of Denham Springs as far as business was concerned. Mm-hmm. A testament to your leadership, and we'll cover some of those numbers in a little while, but 2021 hits and everybody says, thank God, so glad to get 2020 out of the way. And then what happens? Boom, in February, ice storms.
That was a tough
Just
start.
when you thought you were going to get a break, Mayor Landry.
I know. I called a good friend of mine, Junior Shelton, the former mayor of Central.
Yes.
And I said, how you doing, buddy? He said, I'm doing great because I'm not mayor.
Yeah.
I said, thanks,
That's
buddy.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. But, it's, because you do kind of get tired of it after a while, but you have to do what you have to do.
Yes, you do. And who would have thought we would have had to deal with something like that here in South Louisiana? I mean, you just, so it goes to show you that preparation is the key, and you prepare for maybe everything, every crazy scenario you can, and then when they come around, maybe you have some semblance of what you need to do.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
CERT.
Yeah.
CERT. That's the Community Emergency Response Team.
Yes.
It's something that we have installed here in the city of Denham
Yes.
Springs. Last night at the council meeting, we recognized Travis Tharp.
Yeah.
Travis is a very, very good man, and he is a volunteer, and he works through Volunteer Louisiana, and he is our CERT leader for the volunteers here in Denham Springs.
Yes.
Jason Populus is our Emergency Operations Coordinator. Jason is a 17-year employee of the city. He's a firefighter.
Yes.
He went to the training, as did Travis, with us to Emmitsburg back in, it's been 2 years ago now, and where we were taught how to respond to emergencies. And we had 50-odd people from the city of Denham, from Ascension Parish, East Baton Rouge Parish. And we just invited everybody that we could to go up there as a group, because when we have an emergency, we're going to have to depend on each other.
Right.
And that's where we learned how to do what we're doing now.
Yes.
And Travis, like I said, last night we honored him at the council because Secretary of State, Billy Nungesser, his office runs Volunteer Louisiana. And they had gone to a national conference of which Travis was invited, but what Travis didn't know is that he was recognized and given a trophy for his outstanding performance as the #1 CERT leader in the country.
Wow.
From Denham Springs. Go figure, right?
That's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah.
It is huge.
Awesome.
And the guy's just as humble as he can be. He just wants to do the right thing. He wants to help as many people as he can. His CERT team, all volunteers now.
Yeah.
260 strong now. 260. Whenever the last hurricane threat that we had, the parish called and said, Travis, we're gonna have to staff 2 schools, two evacuation center. If we do you have volunteers? He said, yep, got all you need.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
That's a beautiful thing.
It is. So he's trying to expand it now to make it even more involving of more community partners in the parish.
Yeah.
Signed him up this morning for Leadership Livingston, of which you had gone through as well, so he can form those relationships with other community leaders in our area to make the CERT team even stronger.
Absolutely.
And it's phenomenal what they have done. Him and Jason have just killed themselves trying to make this thing work. So if you're a volunteer for the CERT team, you get trained. The very first thing, they teach you how to do CPR. They teach you how to do all the emergency things that you need to do.
Fantastic.
So that there's 260 people out there during an emergency that can come out and start the process, whatever it may be.
That's a great thing.
Oh, it's just you can go online, you can pull up CERT and read all about it.
Okay.
And I would encourage everybody to please do so. And contact Jason or contact Travis and see about becoming a member. It doesn't cost you anything. You'll get so much training.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of a backup for everything that we do as a city professionally during disasters, let's say.
Yes.
But there's things like documenting how many volunteer hours are donated, right? Why is that important? Because for all the volunteer hours that you have, FEMA will give you credit off your 20% match.
Wow.
And so you can actually save money or not have to pay anything out of pocket by doing that. He's got Cajun Navy folks. So whenever a disaster happens, there's a Cajun Navy person assigned to us, and they're the ones that coordinates the Cajun Navy. So all the departments and all the different areas of volunteerism he covers. And it's just phenomenal for us. And so I want this to be what my goal is to make sure that it doesn't matter who the mayor is. It doesn't matter who the council is, that we have paid staff that know what they're doing and they execute the disaster recovery.
Yes.
They shouldn't have to be like myself, a year and a half in office and have to deal with a disaster. My friend, the mayor of Baker, Darnell Waits, was mayor for like 90 days before the disaster.
Oh, wow.
So, and you don't have any training before you go into this position. So you better have a staff that knows exactly how to do it all. Yeah. And that's my goal.
Yes.
My goal is that for the next, if I get reelected again for a third term, before I leave office, that everybody is in place that knows exactly what to do so that the new guy or girl coming in, they got it.
Yes.
And it's hopefully it'll all work out.
I'm sure it will. And you still got work to do in this city, and you've done just a great job with it. Planet provides a full range of residential and commercial landscape services, including plant and tree installs, grading and drainage, patio paver and retaining wall installs, and much more. Reach out to them at 225-252-4905. Planet, they are a world apart and a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Just to kind of cover some numbers from, we discussed earlier 2020 and how the year was surprisingly good. Considering the circumstances. Sales tax revenue, for example, was up 11% in 2020. And for people that may not realize it, that makes up about 60% of the revenue for the city of Denham Springs. So 11% up in a year of COVID. I'm sure you'll take it. That's a win, right?
And spend it, right?
Yeah, and spend it. Taxes from online sales were returned to the city. And the interesting thing was, new housing, new cars, new boats, ATVs, all those sorts of things, sales were way up. So that helps. That helps get revenue into the city and allows you to do more of the things that you want to do and that will benefit the city. Mm-hmm. No city employees were laid off during that time.
Never.
Fantastic.
We decided that we were all essential.
Yeah.
And everybody would come to work every day.
Love it.
And we will take whatever precautions. The first thing we did was make sure everybody had all the PPE they needed to protect themselves. We made sure they had the training so they understood what they had to do.
Yes.
We limited it to one person per vehicle, except fire trucks.
Sure.
So we did all the things that we're supposed to do. We closed down City Hall, but we had a phone number there. If you needed to come in, we can all mask up and you can come in and take care of your business. But about 95% of our business, we have a drive-through. We're able to do
Great
it there.
Thing.
It's just drive through. We could take care of everything you need. And it really worked out well.
What a benefit that was, because for people that may not know that where they are currently at and are staying, they call this Wet City Hall.
Wet City Hall.
Wet City Hall. So it used to be a bank. And
I'll stand corrected. Bank City Hall.
Bank City Hall.
West City Hall is the one that
yes.
flooded. And Old City Hall is the museum on Mattie Street.
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
So it used to be a bank, and so it had the built-in things that you would need in order to conduct business without actually being, right up on somebody's face or whatever. Right. And that was kind of an unforeseen advantage.
That's correct.
So you could still conduct almost all the business you needed to right there at the drive-through window.
Never had to shut down for one day, thank goodness. Did we have some people with COVID? Of course we did, because I can only control what happens while you're at work.
Sure.
And when everybody went home, they went to Walmart, they went to Bass Pro, went to see their family. I get it, okay? It's very difficult to do, but and we're in a similar situation right now because we're starting to tighten the belt a little bit now. Say, okay, guys, if you're out there and you're conducting business with somebody, mask up before you go out there.
Yeah.
To try and do as much as we can.
Sure. And you also did some offered training to your employees on COVID-19 procedures and practices and things of that nature to make sure they stay safe where they can. And
here's a little common sense thing like we didn't think about. So you learn as you go through, right? Mm-hmm. So our firefighters, they roll up on a call and it's a heart attack, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, they may or may not put on a mask.
Sure.
But 3 or 4 of them go into the home.
Yeah.
To do whatever they need to do before KDA shows up or whatever ambulance, if that's who they call.
Yes.
Well, when COVID started, because of the PPE that they had to wear, they had the full suit, the mask, the face shield, and everything.
Sure.
Everybody doesn't need to go in there because when you come out, you had to destroy all that.
Yeah.
Let one man go in.
Right.
Assess the situation. If he needs the rest of the firefighters, he can bring them in.
Great point.
So but you learn as you go through these disasters, this is what we need to do, and this is how we need to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's just a little minor thing that we,
Yeah.
Okay.
No doubt about it. You also started up Blight Court again, and you and I looked at some blighted houses and kind of discussed the massive red tape it is. Sometimes you can't find out who owns the thing at the end. And
that's right. So blighted properties was a problem before the flood.
Sure.
And so those properties are even worse now.
Yeah.
And then we have some homes that were marginal that were impacted by the flood, and now they're truly blighted.
Yes.
And it's hard because you as a property owner that owns that blighted property have rights.
Yes.
But your neighbor that's next door that's looking at the overgrown grass and possibly rats and snakes and vagrants that have moved in has rights as well. So it's kind of hard to manage both of those things. But we started Blight Court about 1.5 years ago, right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge because of the COVID. But
sure.
We started the process to eliminate as many of those as we can. Now, I can't just walk in there and tear your house down. It's still your house.
Yeah.
But we work through the process and we start off very, very soft. Let's say, what can we do to help you?
Sure.
We need to get this cleaned up. Can we help you in any kind of way? And that's when we started reaching out to FEMA and trying to secure funds through HMGP as well, so that you could maybe have your house maybe demoed, and have FEMA pay for it, or they buy you out altogether, or they would elevate you. So there's all kind of options out there. We just had we had to find out if that's what you wanted to do, and then help guide you through the process so that you can have it done. Right now, we just got an approval for another 2 acquisitions and 10 elevations just recently last week.
Fantastic.
And that's from the 2018 application. So it takes a while.
It does. It's a process, and I had somebody the other day that was telling me, well, I filled out that application for elevation and haven't heard anything back. How long has it been? A couple months. I'm like, you got maybe 1.5 years or so.
It's possible. Unfortunately, it takes a while, and we utilize engineering firms to help us with it because they have the expertise we don't.
Sure.
And so they help you, guide you through the process, and they know this. I could call them at any moment. What's the status on 123 Oak Street?
Yeah.
And they know exactly what it is and where it's at in the queue and when should we hear something.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, one of the things you showed me yesterday was the new administration bill for the animal shelter. It's actually beautiful. It's funny that we discussed this, but there's a lot of Denham Springs that people may not realize exist, but there's some great things going on within the city of Denham Springs that, take some time, drive around, look at some things. And one of those is the animal shelter, the new administration building there. You have several new vehicles that you're operating and street sweeper, beautiful street sweeper.
Asphalt roller, a new crack sealer. I mean, there's all kind of equipment. Some we didn't have before.
Yeah.
Some needed to be replaced. Vac trucks to clean out street drains and what have you.
Sure.
So, as difficult as the flood was, and if we can just for a second take away the pain and suffering and the aggravation and the nightmares and the post-traumatic flood syndrome. Yeah. You take away the hurt and fast forward to, say, 5 or 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. Denham Springs will be a better place. Yes. Some of the blighted properties will be gone. Some of the folks that were habitually flooded now will be either bought out or elevated to the point to where they don't have to worry about flooding anymore. Yes. Real estate values will continue to increase. The quality of the older homes, because they were remodeled after the flood, now have up to code plumbing and wiring. So everything is going to be okay. Yeah. We just have to get through it, and it hurts. It does. It hurts. I mean, financially, maybe you had enough flood insurance to replace everything. But that's the bad part. You had to replace everything. There were certain things that you wanted to keep, right? Heirlooms and just, man, I miss my recliner, right? Yeah. Those are the kinds of things. And I can remember one of Marion's girlfriends called her up, and she was one of the first ones to have her house completely redone. And she moved back in, and she's all excited. And Marion calls her, I'm so happy you're back in the house. She said, you know what, I am too. I'm glad it's over. She said, but I feel like I'm at a Holiday Inn. Yeah. I'm not in my house. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so we all had to, that's one of the many things that we had to get past. Yes. And, so we had to do the same thing. And my wife loves to decorate, and she does a great job of it. And now, and it's been 4.5 years, right? And now she said, you know what? I think I have it like I want it. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And you just bury your head, you move forward, and that's all you can really get after it.
Stephanie Berthelot and the crew at SR Enterprise can handle it all, from sheetrock to texture to paint. Give Stephanie a call at 504-432-9284. SR Enterprise, where they spread the paint and you spread the word. Another thing that you showed me was the beautiful pavilion that is built right there at the old City Hall location.
So if you remember, I told you about FEMA, and we were able to work with FEMA. Now we had Thompson Consulting is the group that we hired. There are consultants all over the place because I'm going to tell you what, retired FEMA employees go into business for themselves to go to work after disaster to show you how to get through the process.
Oh, wow. No better person.
No better person. Yeah. That's exactly right. And FEMA will actually pay you, or will actually pay them to do the job for you, to help you get through the process. That's how complicated it is. Yeah. But anyway, so the folks that we used were fabulous. The consultants that we have, and I still have 2 on staff. I say on staff, they have an office that they share here at City Hall. Excellent. And they're always right there when we need them. And and Jonathan Clark has just been a phenomenal young man. Yeah, and it's just good to see the enthusiasm that he has for our city. Janae is the young lady that works with us as well. Yeah. So, but he told us, he said, Mayor, he said, you know what, FEMA will replace your City Hall, and they'll replace the fire chief headquarters, and they'll replace those 2 buildings that you have over there at the street department. They're all total losses, okay? Yeah. And I said, well, I'm not sure about City Hall, because if it floods again like it did in 2016, the building may be waterproofed or the building may be elevated, but I still won't be able to get to it. Yeah. So what good is it if we can't get to it? Right. And that kind of prompted the decision to move over here to the Capital One Bank building that we had in the heart of town. Yeah. So FEMA has a program. They call it our 428. So all 4 buildings that we just got through talking about, they just lumped it together and said, okay, here you go, Mayor. You got just under $4 million. Just tell us what you want to spend it on. Yeah. And we can go from there. Yeah. And that's exactly what we did.
It is. And you had said that back in 2018 when you re-ran. You said, look, we'd like to buy the building that we're in now and renovate it. Yeah. And it's a beautiful building in there. As you say, we weren't building the Taj Mahal, right?
We're building City Hall, right?
Building City Hall.
And the finishes are fine. It looks perfectly nice. Yes. It's
very well laid out.
It's a 50-plus-year-old building, so it fits right in with the Antique District.
Absolutely.
And so it's a great location. There's probably 30,000 cars a day that pass on either side of that building every day. Yeah. So it's a great location. Fantastic. And it brings the farmers market, because we let them use our parking lot. Christmas in the Village that we do every December. All these things are things that we try to build so that the core of the city have things to go see and go do.
Absolutely.
Like Le Chien, the new microbrewery. It's kid-friendly and dog-friendly. Yeah. I mean, it's just, we have a lot going on, and there's a lot left to do.
Agreed. And Springfest came back I was there. Wow, what a turnout. People were ready to get outside, I think.
That was almost 10,000 people that showed up to Springfest.
Unbelievable.
And now we're starting on Fall Fest, and I think the booths are just sold out.
What a beautiful thing.
It's a great one-day event, right?
Yes.
It really is.
And it really brings the community together. It's just great for everybody. And love that. Love to see the success that it had as it came back after COVID and really just they came out in droves. As you promised in your reelection, and we just talked about this, but the Capital One building, you ended up buying that, and you saved a little money. I mean, look, you're a businessman at heart, right? And
they had listed on the market for $1.4 million.
Yeah,
I knew of a guy that had tried to buy it and was almost able to close the deal at $1.2 million.
Yeah,
and then I approached them after we had leased it for a year. They gave it to us for the first 6 months for free. Yeah. No rent, no utilities, fine corporate partners, and we really appreciate that because we had to have a place to operate out of.
Sure.
And then after the 6 months, I said, let's renegotiate this, and let's get a year lease from you. Yeah. And they were very generous. Again, I think it was like $5 a foot, which is a pretty good price.
I'd say so. Yeah.
And then when we got to the end of the year, we were in that process now with FEMA to decide what we were going to do next. And I just reached out to Capital One, the realtor, and I said, okay, guys, this is what I want to do. I know you have $1.4 million. I know you got an offer for $1.2. I'll offer you $1 million minus the rent that I've already paid you for the last year. Doggone it, they took it.
Yeah,
okay,
fantastic.
Yeah, so we ended up writing a check for $771,000, I believe, and then of the $4 million that we had, that paid for that, and then we used about $1.4 million or $1.5 million in the remodel.
Yeah,
new roof, like I said, new finishes, new floors, walls painted. Didn't move a whole lot of stuff around because you know what, it's working okay.
Yeah,
it works okay.
I think it looks great,
and it's paid for.
And it's paid. And it's paid for. The best part.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. Now let me ask you this: if you could have one thing for the city of Denham Springs, if the FEMA ferry came down and just
FEMA ferry
came down and granted you just one thing, just said, here, you can take this, what would it be?
Eliminate flooding.
There you go.
Clean out the Amite River. Do whatever you have to do south of here to get the water out of our area as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Do detention ponds or whatever up north of here to stop the water from ever getting here in the first place.
Yeah.
I would love for our citizens to be able to go to sleep at night knowing that they don't have to worry about a flood any longer. Now, it's happening all over the world.
Sure.
Look what happened in Germany last week, and those folks that have gotten killed with torrential rains and flooding there. It's just, I don't know if we're just more aware of it today because of the media that we have in this world, or if it really is worse.
Yeah.
I've never been a proponent of global warming.
Right.
There's something going on. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And but if we could just eliminate that fear for a lot of folks, I would feel like I've accomplished something.
Fantastic. Now, you also discussed with me a little bit of roundabout. You were proposing for the Bass Pro area for those big rigs that come in and out of that way station.
They're coming out the way station in that is a Pilot, I think, truck stop.
Yes.
And so they come out that side entrance and they're going to turn left, and it really just blocks up that whole intersection. It's a bad design, but they were there first.
Sure.
Okay, and we built around them
Yeah.
over the last couple of decades, and it's been a challenge with traffic. So I reached out to an engineering firm that does a lot of work with us, Fort and Sublata.
Yes.
And one of their engineers is a retired DOTD employee, because that's where DOTD employees go.
Yeah.
They go to work for engineering firms. And she said, well, why don't we look at a roundabout?
Yeah.
And so I work with Capital Region Planning. I'm on the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So that part of our job is to approve and use DOTD funds for road improvements around the state.
Sure.
So one of the things I did was I immediately added Bass Pro to the MPO so that we would have access to federal funds in the future, because that is it's a major road here in our area because of the Bass Pro and the SAMs and future developments that may come up down there.
Absolutely.
So that opened the door then for the some of the other programs that are available. So now what I have is a set of plans to have a roundabout at Bass Pro itself, so that the truckers, now this is who I'm really worried about,
right.
Let's get the truckers to come out of the Pilot and turn right.
Yes.
Go down to the Bass Pro, make the loop, and then come back up to range. And that way they're not blocking traffic.
Agreed.
Because if you are south of the city coming up range and you turn left onto Bass Pro, if you're not paying attention, there's a truck right in front of you.
Absolutely.
And if you're heading south and you turn right on that you're looking to merge, because the truck is right there in front of you.
Yes.
So we are very fortunate that we haven't had any fatalities there, but it's obviously a dangerous situation that we need to fix. And there's several other projects. As a matter of fact, I just was on the phone this morning with Christine Gallen from DOTD, and it looks like the contract's going to be let for Range Avenue in November. And what DOTD is doing, this is a state highway and it's a state project, and it's all based on crash data.
Yes.
And they're going to turn Range Avenue into left turn lane only.
Okay.
This doesn't sound very popular, but you know what? I think they're going to take out 1 or 2 red lights, left turn lane only. It's going to speed up traffic. It's actually speed up traffic, and it's going to, I call it the suicide lane in the center, because everybody's using it as an entrance ramp.
Right.
They speed up and they run into the back of somebody, or they sideswipe somebody.
Yes.
And the number of accidents on Range is horrendous.
Yeah.
So this should eliminate most of them. I can't say all, but most of them.
Fantastic.
So it's going to be a little learning curve for everybody, and get over the shock of, we'd be like going to New Orleans. You're going,
oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, well, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, if it speeds up traffic, I'm all for it.
There you go.
You know. Dane Arnold with iTrade Exchange has been enabling small business in the Livingston Parish area to save cash through his network of over 300 participating Livingston Parish businesses. Saving cash by trading services with other exchange members is what iTrade Exchange is all about. For more information, contact Dane Arnold at 225-205-3640 or visit iTradeExchange.biz. Now, social media has become a pretty major platform for getting out a message. One thing I've noticed, especially of late, is the fact that the city of Denham Springs has become a regular guest on the Livingston Parish News Morning Show, which I personally think is a great idea. People now probably turn to Facebook more than they do the local news almost to get their news. And so I think it's a great thing that y'all are reaching out and kind of doing whatever you can to get the message of what's going on in the city.
Certainly.
You know, and
so I think to me, Facebook has some limitations.
Sure.
City webpage maybe has some limitations as well.
Yeah.
But when you can sit across the table like we are right now and just have a discussion and have the citizens tune in at their convenience from their iPhone, from their computer, surely makes it easy to get the message out.
It really does. Yeah.
And it really is important because our citizens need to know what we're doing. This is not so I could get reelected.
Right.
This is so that you have a comfort level with how your city is run, with the tax dollars that you're contributing to the city are being spent wisely.
Yes.
And so you build that trust factor, right?
Absolutely.
And then, like last night at our council meeting, my council meetings usually are about a minute or a minute and a half per item because we just blow through them really quick.
Sure.
Because there's not a whole lot of pontification and a whole lot of discussion because most of our items are pretty simple. But last night there was one concerning garbage.
Yeah.
And garbage is on everybody's mind because I think our garbage supplier or vendor has been a little lax lately.
Yeah.
And so we had probably 8 or 10 people show up so they could voice their opinions.
Wow.
And that's the kinds of things the interaction that I love.
Yes.
Now, the thing I really loved about last night is every one of them got up so they looked at the people from the garbage company and said, we have been talking to the mayor about this forever. I don't know how come you can't get this.
Yeah.
at least they acknowledged the fact that I have talked.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was nice. But it's all about communications.
It really
Everything is about communications, and
100%.
And that's what you specialize in now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And because we have to sell the city of Denham Springs as being the paradise on earth that it is.
It is
7.39.
That's right, 7.39 miles. Yes, I agree 100%. And leaders for me are people that give as much as they take from their community. And I do want to mention your community service because I did some research on this.
Uh-oh.
And you really did give back. You served as member of the Denham Springs Planning and Zoning Commission at one point. You serve on the executive board for the Council on Aging. How about a board member for the Chamber of Commerce at one point, the Athletic Association at one point? You're on the board for the Crew of Denham Springs, or were, and the Administrative Council for Immaculate Conception Catholic Church, my home church. So you've done a lot just outside of what you do every day for the city of Denham Springs.
Well, you have to give back, and you also have to learn how to say no sometimes.
Yeah,
because you can't get overwhelmed.
You want to say yes to everybody, right?
Of course, you try.
Yeah,
you try, but sometimes you have to say so that you can be effective in a few of the other things. you have to learn to kind of cut back a little bit. But
I agree 100%.
Managing time, managing your assets.
Yeah.
And you have to have that quality of life as well.
Yes.
I do have a wife.
Yeah.
I do
yes, you do.
I do have 7 children.
Yeah.
And I do have 13 grandkids.
13 grandkids.
And as of on August the 4th, I'll have 3 great-grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
I know. So
congratulations for that.
Well, thank you. Look, large families are wonderful.
Yes.
We are so blessed and so happy.
Well, we are blessed, sir, to have you as mayor. I appreciate you coming on. I really do. I love talking to you. You are as genuine as they come. I can't wait to put the biggest sign in history out in front of my building when you run for mayor again. We're very excited about that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I hope you had fun.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. You've always been a pleasure to talk to. And, anytime you want me to come back, I'd be more than happy to.
Absolutely.
It might be kind of boring the next time. But
no, heck no. We couldn't be boring.
I've been accused. But no, thank you for what you do, because it is definitely important that we have this communications.
Absolutely.
And get it out to the citizens so that they know what we're doing.
I agree.
Okay.
100%. And that's the goal for all of us. We just want to give that information out and let the citizens know what's going on. I do want to thank everyone out there for viewing and listening to Local Leaders of the Podcast. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share us everywhere on social media. Thank you to all my sponsors. We could do none of this without all of you. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, and thank you for the invitation to share some information with you all today. It is true that 90% of my homes in my city received water. 90%. It's hard to comprehend that many homes had water. Of the 4,200 homes, about approaching 3,000 had over 18 inches, and that triggers the mitigation piece that we're so concerned about going forward. But this is such an unprecedented event when you have 25 to 30 inches of rain in 72 hours. We talked about trillions of gallons of water coming down upon us. It is unbelievable what we have just gone through. And we talk about so many of these folks, 70, 80% of the folks did not have flood insurance. Well, the reason they didn't have flood insurance, we've never had that issue that bad. The crest of the river was 5 foot above the highest recorded flood stage that we've ever had back in 1983. How do you even prepare for that? So our folks and at least in my community, don't live there without flood insurance because they want to live dangerously or because they can't afford it. They didn't need it. So this is such a unique and rare event that has occurred. It has just devastated all of us. We can go into great detail about the response from FEMA. I have documented a lot of that in my brief that I have submitted to you. But the biggest single issue, well, there's two big issues. One is the inconsistency of the information that is given to us and to our citizens, and the mitigation piece. We talk about mobile housing units and how we need those desperately so that our seniors can get back to their homes and that our kids can get back to school, because school starts again in a week or two. They need to be back in their communities. They need to be able to go back home and live in their driveway in a trailer of all things so that they can put their houses back together again. But it starts off with, Mr. Myers, you need a trailer, so we'll get you one. And then the next day or two, somebody comes back and says, oh, no, Mr. Myers, you can't have it because you're in a flood zone. Well, FEMA guidelines say you can't put one in a flood zone. Well, who needs one more than anybody else than somebody that just got flooded? So there's no rhyme or reason there. And we were instructed last week, okay, FEMA has relaxed the guidelines. We can now have mobile homes in a flood zone. But you heard me talk about Mr. Myers. He's a 90-year-old war veteran. Guess what? FEMA went to his home just Tuesday and said, no, we changed our mind again. You can't have Where is the consistency in the message to our people? And you want to know why our people are frustrated? Because they don't know who to turn to. They cannot get the consistent information that they need to make an intelligent decision. So to say that I'm disappointed and frustrated and angry is an understatement. My community, unlike Mr. Shelton's, is very old. We've been around since 1828 when Mr. Denham came and discovered some springs, hence the name Denham Springs, and it was at that point in time when this community started to flourish, and we have large families, a lineage of generation after generation, such a strong sense of community, and that we all pull together and we all support each other. And so this disaster is about real people. It's not something you just see on TV and you don't connect with, but we are definitely all in this together. My community has an antique district, and the buildings go back to the early 1900s. We have football. Everybody has football. We also have football, but you know what it is? We sell season tickets, and we sell out of season tickets every year to high school football. That's the kind of community that we have. Our citizens love our city, and I love my citizens. And I'll try to be their voice. Another 90-year-old, Mr. Hewitt Underwood. Mr. Hewitt served our country in the Second World War in the Coast Guard, has always been to the veterans, has always attended every veterans function. He's such a proud man. And now his home had 57 inches of water. He has a bride of 59 years is how long they've been married, and they want to just go back home, but with the possibility of having to elevate their home at a cost of about $100,000, he can't afford that. The home is only worth about $100,000. He's 90 years old. He just wants to go back home and live the rest of his life in peace and enjoy his kids and his grandkids and his great-grandkids. To show you how dedicated he was, some of the possessions that he had they were able to remove them from the home before the floods. And then after the floods, they went back to go and retrieve some of those. And when Mr. Underwood walked into his storage room, the first place he went to was the drawer where he kept his medals, all of his service medals from the military back in the Second World War. That's how much he served his country. That's how much he loves his country. But now the country is not serving him. With the ridiculous guidelines and the procedures that FEMA subjects him and his family and everybody else in my community and these other communities is uncalled for. It's unbelievable. You have to be on the ground to truly understand exactly what our folks are going through. I would challenge anybody from the FEMA headquarters, play undercover boss. Come to my city. Go work the streets and see what your folks are telling my people. I had a 70-year-old gentleman in my office just yesterday. In tears, he was out of town during the flood event, came back home, drove into his driveway, saw the devastation. His wife had a heart attack. Now, she is in Hammond, 30 miles away, in a hospital. Her sister is taking care of her while this poor guy is back at home trying to take care of his possessions, trying to gut out his house. And a FEMA rep goes to him and says, well, I'm going to tell you what, you got to tear your house down. It's devastating. It's devastated. It devastated him. He came to me. He said, Mayor, what am I supposed to do? And we sat down and we talked, and we're okay. But the response from FEMA has been totally uncalled for. So in closing, my biggest challenge to you is to make FEMA change the mitigation piece, because if I had 3,000 homes that had more than 18 inches of water and they are deemed as substantially damaged, they want us to elevate them. That will be the death of my city. I received an email the other day of a guy that lives on Gerard Landry Drive. 4 of his neighbors have already said they're leaving, and he's strongly considering doing the same. That piece does not need to go into effect. Please suspend it. Please use some common sense. The fact that you're going to make somebody raise their house on a 1,000-year event, a rain of such epic proportions, nobody could ever comprehend what was going to happen. So do not, please, I ask you, please do not make us raise our homes. Thank you very much.
Black Sheep Creative understands the importance of digital marketing and your return on your investment. It's their aim to provide professional web and graphic design services at a price point that smaller businesses and startups can afford. Get in touch with them on the web at blacksheepcreative.com. Local Leaders, the podcast, is proud to support Mighty Moms. Mighty Moms is a community of ordinary people on an extraordinary mission to end childhood hunger in Livingston Parish. You can find out more information by visiting MightyMomsGo.org.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.